John Curtis and I share an experience of both being dubbed with fake words by a Russian TV program. And so I have a certain fondness for Sir John Curtis, Britain's foremost elections expert. And he's talked about the greatest political shake-up in a century, which is coming on May the 1st for the first time since the 1920s. Britain's traditional two-party system, he says, is under mortal threat. I don't think it's the first time. I think it's the second time. The SDP seriously threatened the two-party system and proved to be a damp squib. Labour and the Conservatives, who've dominated Westminster for generations, are polling at barely 24 and 22%, respectively. And into this vacuum has surged Nigel Farage's Reform UK, now registering a lead in some polls and reshaping the political landscape. Traditionally, British politics has been a binary contest, Labour versus Conservative, left versus right, and today that map may have been shattered. We now face a five-way competition, Labour, Conservatives, Reform, and Lib Dems, and the Greens, with no party commanding broad national loyalty. Even the Greens are at an historic high, polling around 9%, and the Lib Dems, long moribund after coalition, have surged to 14%. Why? Curtis highlights two key factors: the collapse of traditional economic left-right divisions, the rise of cultural politics, identity, patriotism, immigration, and woke. Put simply, economics no longer defines political identity, values and emotion do. And Reform UK is not simply UKIP reborn. It's more dangerous, more polished, and in some regions more popular. Unlike Farage's old vehicles, UKIP and Brexit, Reform has both outpolled Labour and the Conservatives nationally, established a serious local election infrastructure, fielding 1,600 candidates. Some are a little dodgy, a feat UKIP never quite achieved, and used populist rhetoric by Reform UK, which is not only to attack immigration but to adopt quasi-left economic policies such as nationalising British steel and water companies. Farage has understood something that many commentators have missed, that disillusioned voters are not strictly right-wing or left-wing. They're culturally conservative but often economically interventionalist. So Reform is taking voters from both Labour and the Conservatives, and Curtis notes that while previously Farage mainly cannibalised Tory votes, he's now bleeding Labour support too, especially among financially insecure, socially conservative voters in the Midlands and the North. The local elections this week are a looming catastrophe, therefore, for the Conservatives, and polling suggests hundreds of Tory council seats could be lost, mainly to Reform. Reform could win key mayoralties like Greater Lincolnshire and Hull, winning Greater Lincolnshire to what's her name, the lady with the one finger salute, Andrea Jenkin, and Andrea, I can't remember her name. She's defined by the yellow dress and her rudeness. The Tories could be pushed into third place nationally. In terms of council seats. Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, has already admitted the elections will be very difficult. There will be a judgment on her. She will be very lucky to survive this one. Meanwhile, senior Tories like Robert Jenrick and Ben Houchen have floated the idea of a future pact with Farage, an idea Badenoch officially denies but is left open at local council level. The implication is clear. The Conservative Party is no longer confident it can survive alone. It is openly debating merger with populist insurgency, and Keir Starmer, for his part, has warned that a Tory Reform alliance would be, quote, a disaster for Britain. But that's what Kemi Badenoch says. It's going to be a disaster! Brace! Brace! Keir Starmer accused both sides of conning their voters by pretending not to negotiate behind the scenes. Labour should not feel too smug either. While Reform helps Labour by splitting the right-wing vote, Curtis warns that the strong Reform surge could directly take Labour seats in the North and the Midlands as well. And Reform is capitalising on anger at Labour's perceived betrayal of patriotism and cultural identity, and therefore Reform's strength could turn Labour victories today into Labour defeats tomorrow. Sir John Curtis's assessment is devastatingly simple. We are no longer a two-party country, we are a five-party battlefield, and Britain's political conventions, forged in the wreckage of the First World War, are now cracking. We have entered a new era of instability, volatility and realignment. What began with Brexit is now culminating in the fragmentation of both Labour and Conservative dominance. And whether Britain ends up with a centre-right realignment, a Reform Conservative coalition, or a permanent era of fractured governance, one thing is certain: the old political order is dead, and the 2020s will be seen as transformative and turbulent, certainly as turbulent as the 1920s.